Hey, and welcome back to the number one podcast in the world. That's what I say at the start of these, right? The Cellarcast, episode 86. I might be a little sleepy, might be a little weird. Brain might be a little, might be a little slow today. More so than usual because, my sleep is weird again. Because guess what? I went over to Kat's house, and every time I sleep over at Kat's house, my sleep gets messed up. But that's foreshadowing because I have some stuff related to that I want to talk about today. That I'm probably just gonna go right into. Because nothing really interesting with my week so far that I can remember that would precede that. I guess I'm working on the new video. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm working on the new video. Other than that, the most interesting thing that happened is that I went over to Kat's, and we're getting a follow-up. Because we watched Season 3 of Castlevania, Netflix Castlevania. We watched some other stuff. What else did we watch? We finished Spy Family. And then randomly we watched When Harry Met Sally on TV. It was cute. I liked it. I'm kind of a sucker for stuff that makes me feel nice. I'm a sucker for positive emotion. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I feel like it's funny because I feel like growing up, the term like a Meg Ryan movie was some kind of like put down or oh, you want to watch a Meg Ryan movie? I liked it. Also, what was the last thing Meg Ryan was even in? I feel like she was a lot more relevant when I was growing up. What's she been in recently? Why does it list her political party on Wikipedia? Why does it say she's a registered Democrat? What the fuck? Okay. Why? I've never seen that on anyone else who's like not a politician. That's so weird. She was in Inside Out in 2015. And Ithaca in 2015. Huh. Alright. I guess she's just retired. I guess the channel had like a weird... I guess they were doing like a Meg Ryan marathon or something. Because right after that they played You've Got Mail. And all I remember from You've Got Mail, is that... I remember like as a kid that was on TV. My mom and I were watching TV. That was on. And... there's like one scene where Meg Ryan and one of her friends are talking about online dating. That was the whole angle. Oh my god, you can meet people on the internet now, on America Online, and her friend a third woman comes over and says, "What are you guys talking about?" And her friend goes, "Cyber sex." And as a kid, I'm like, "What?" Not because they said sex, but the cyber thing really threw me off. I was like, what does that mean? My mom was like, I guess it's just like having sex over the internet. And I was like, what? That confused me even more. Much more. Anyway. Oh, and the other thing I remember about You've Got Mail is there's a Nakey Jakey video where he points out Meg Ryan's giant pants in that movie. We were watching it, waiting for we went to go eat breakfast, and out of like the corner we could see the TV, and we were watching. Kat was like making something, and she's like, "Is she wearing the pants yet? Is she wearing her giant baggy pants yet?" Anyway, Netflix Castlevania. So, if you recall from last week, my opinions on the first two seasons, well, our opinions were kind of split. Because we both pretty much enjoyed the first season. Second season, I enjoyed because I'm a big nerd who likes long sequences of people talking. And she found that really boring, and she didn't really care about the characters. Like, Kat did not care about, like, Carmilla, for instance, like, at all. Or Isaac, or Hector. I maybe vaguely about Dracula, but she really just cared about She liked Trevor and Sypha. I always say Sypha. No, it is Sypha. It's Sypha, and I double checked the kana of how her name is supposed to be spelled. It is Sypha. That's the convenient thing about being able to read basic kana. Japanese kana is it's always pronounced the same way, so you never have to worry. That's how I know that the character from KOF is called Rugal. It's Rugal, not Rugal. It's Rugal because of the way that it's spelled. There's no ambiguity. Anyway, so so season 3 was kind of like Kat told me. I think I might have even mentioned this at the end of or when I talked about the show last time. She said season 3 is going to be it's the make it or break it point, because if it's more of the same and she finds it equally as boring, she's kind of done with it. She's like, I have no desire to watch anymore. So we watched season 3 and we both liked it. We liked it quite a bit, actually. It feels like a lot of like elements from season 2, namely the talking and the very slow pace. That's one thing. If you watch Netflix Castlevania, don't expect things to happen. Don't expect things to happen necessarily every episode. Things will move forward at a very slow pace. Oh, this is going to be a full spoiler thing, so if you don't care about it, then just keep listening. But if you do, then I don't know. If you're interested in watching the show, then I guess skip to the next segment. It's a slow-paced show. Trevor and Sypha spend essentially the entire season in one village, kind of just walking around and having a couple conversations with people. And you're sort of watching a couple little plot threads unfold throughout this. Alucard has a little subplot, which feels like filler. It feels like an excuse to... Alucard's subplot feels like it could be setting up something, but I could see it tying into other things throughout the season. But in many ways, for the majority of it, it feels like an excuse to keep Alucard in the show. And then there's a lot of stuff, and then the kind of third major area is Carmilla's castle with her and her little vampire oomfies and Hector. And then Isaac. Isaac's got a little thing, which Kat does not give a shit about Isaac. She does not care about that character at all. So she found that fairly boring, but overall his parts of the show aren't very long. So it wasn't too hard to stomach for her. What would I would say, yeah. It's weird that it's 10 episodes. It feels like it could have maybe been sped up a little bit and like compressed a little bit. I enjoyed the slow pace again. I think what helped this season is that you get a lot more strong character dynamics. One of the things that I realize is it could be very polarizing about the second season is it's so much of it is spent in Dracula's castle without a ton of like interaction. Like Dracula's interesting, but what makes him interesting isn't like the way that he's interacting with people. It's just kind of how you kind of come to understand him through other people's views of him. Was kind of like, oh, okay, they're kind of like building this character up from afar almost. But that can be really boring because it's all just talking. It's all just conversation and not a lot of movement. I think where season 3 kind of improves upon that is the conversations are between characters who are relatively interesting. They're interesting, at least interesting enough that you're like, can you guys hear the fucking chainsaw in the background? Hang on. Okay, I'm back. Jesus. I sit down to record. haven't recorded all day. I sit down to record, and that's when Leatherface decides to come out. Criminy. Okay. Where was I? Oh god, now I got a burp. I'm just a mess. Okay. The characters... So you get a lot more time with Trevor and Sypha, and straight up, they're just very entertaining to watch. They're very likable as kind of a main couple, and they're a couple. I thought we were both kind of taken aback by that. Where really early on in the show, like first episode, it's established. Oh, we're like, oh, so they're just like having sex now. They're just fucking. Oh, okay. Okay, they clarified it. It's not super out of the realm. It's like, Trevor goes like, he has some beer because he loves beer. And he goes, oh, this is better than sex. And so Sypha's like, better than what? And then later on, it cuts to, we just cut to a scene where it's like morning and they're waking up next to each other in bed completely naked. And we're like, oh, okay, all right. And that's not out of the question. I mean, you could kind of tell, like, you can, especially in the way they make it they write it to be believable, where it's like, I could see how these two people, they're kind of at odds, but they like each other. And you're on the road and it's like cold and you're in like fucking Eastern Europe with monsters. It might be nice to get laid every once in a while. I realized I was thinking about it. I'm like, how many times do you think Trevor has had sex before, like, season 3? How many, like, how often? Because his family died when he was, like, 14. And he's just kind of been wandering around. Like, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, he's been pretty much alone as far as I can tell. As far as they've established, the only way that I could imagine Trevor having sex in the time between like seasons, like from like his whole life up to like season 3, I guess, would be like hiring a prostitute, I guess. Is that in character for him? I don't know. Maybe? I don't know. I feel like there's a non-zero chance that Trevor was like a virgin until season 3. That's just my little what are they, headcanon? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so I thought that was fun. I think that they actually have a fun dynamic as a couple. Trevor's kind of sullen and serious and sort of not quite stoic, but yeah, he's kind of a little more of a downer. He's faster to. He looks more at like the worst possible scenario first, and Sypha's like the inverse of that. She's better at talking to people. She wants to be friends with people. She's a little more positive. She kind of teases him and ribs him, and then he kind of smiles a little bit, and it's like, oh, that's cute. Okay, yeah, they work as a couple, and they're pretty enjoyable to watch. They go to a village. There's some priests who are also super into hell. They're like Christians, I guess, maybe, but they're super into hell. And they have this newfangled idea that hell is actually, it's like Drake says, God's plan. And so it's like, oh, is something devious happening with them? I wonder. Yeah, something devious is happening with them. And there's a character from the games, Saint-Germain. Saint-Germain, so he's like this world traveler, immortal scholar guy. I feel like his character was a bit of a miss in terms of not necessarily the writing, but I think the performance kind of let me down. The voice actor does a fine job, but I feel like I wish that he had been played a little more eccentric. Like, some of the dialogue is like just a little, it's a little like, he's kind of funny. I feel like he should be kind of an eccentric. not like super wacky goofy, but just a little played up, a little more maybe charming or charismatic. The voice actor plays him really serious and like, that's how everyone in the show sounds. And it's mostly that the whole show, and I wish he just had like a little more personality, like a bit of a stronger personality. He felt a little bland, and I wasn't just he's a little boring, not very exciting. He gets into some interesting situations with the monks where he's like kind of infiltrating. He's convincing them to let him go into their priory and read their spooky books and all that. And yeah, there's some fine stuff done with him. I really think it just came down to the presentation the delivery of like the character, like the literal acting. I think that, yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really gel with the actor's interpretation of the character. What else? Oh, all the stuff with Carmilla's castle. So as soon as I was like, okay, so we're going to be spending a decent amount of time with Carmilla. And I know Kat really did not care about her. However, then the big muscly vampire lady walked on screen, and Kat went, yo! And then her brown vampire lady girlfriend walked on screen, and Kat went, yo! and interestingly enough, Carmilla's not really in season 3 very much. She's there. She's honestly like more of a supporting character, and her little oomfies are kind of, you get a lot more about them, and they're decently interesting. You kind of see the way that they work together, the way that they have different sorts of, you see how their personalities all kind of mixed together. The fact that I forget their names, except for the Belle Delphine one, Lenore. I think her name is Lenore. That's the only one whose name I remember. But Muscle Lady and Brown Lady, when they have like these little romantic moments, I'm like, oh, I feel like this is pretty well written. Like, I believe that they're like in love and shit. Just in love and shit. And I can see like how they like balance it. Like the writers are pretty good at writing characters who are in relationships, as far as I can see. And I liked that. This interaction. The other thing, so I don't think Kat particularly cared for Hector. However, he spends most of the season naked, so she liked that. There's like one shot, I swear you can see his dick. I swear. And we both caught it for like 1 second. There's like, he stands up, and you're like, oh, is that it? Oh, is that it? The fact that there's a lot of weird sex stuff in this season, like a lot more than I was expecting. Beyond, okay, that did catch me way off guard. Just having like, because when like, Trevor and Seifer are in bed, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, the existence of sex is acknowledged, right? I wasn't expecting like a full frontal nudity sex scene. 2 parallel scenes back to back that really caught both of us off guard. Man, so there's like 2 scenes where in the show so far, there's 2 scenes where Alucard cries. The first one is after he's just killed his father, and he's sitting alone in this empty castle with only really the memories of his father and mother and his childhood, all alone, and he's basically left to just pick up the pieces of his life and try to kind of make something of it. And in this moment, he just kind of breaks down and has to let it out and just starts weeping and just sobbing, right? The second time Alucard cries is when he's getting a sloppy double blowjob from a pair of Asian twins. Someone just fucking come in the house as soon as I said that. Yeah. That caught the both of us really off guard. So Alucard has this whole subplot where he's at the castle and he's just kind of doing his thing, living his life. He's going insane from isolation and grief. And then all of a sudden, these two Japanese siblings arrive at the castle. They've come from Japan and they want to learn. They were the subjects, they were the slaves of this vampire mistress in the Nihon, and they want to learn, they escaped, and they want to learn how to fight vampires. And he's like, yeah, actually, I kind of like that idea. I think I'll, yeah, that like, give, like, maybe I can get some kind of a purpose. I can interact with people, I can teach people things, I can make use of all this knowledge, like Trevor encouraged me to do. And you're kind of going through the show and you can see their relationship building up, and like, oh, he's kind of like, I was like, oh, he's kind of like a mentor. They're kind of like friends or almost like a parental figure even. Just these kind of like cute fun scenes of him teaching them like fighting and stuff like that, walking them through the castle, showing them these ancient technologies and magics and stuff, and they're asking him these questions, and he can't really answer them, or he's like, we'll get to that later, or it's a long story and that kind of thing. Like, why can't the castle be teleported? And he's like, fucking bitch. And I'm like, what? He says, no, never mind. So like, you know, things are kind of like, so they're these twins, they're talking, they're like on their own. I think they're doing some kind of practice thing. And they're like, we should do something for Alucard. We should do something because you know, we should like make a little gift for him. Someone's right outside my fucking door, and I don't want to talk about this when they're right outside my door. And they kind of like, I'm like, okay. So there's this scene, right? And this is like near the end, kind of like the second season. The majority of it is like really slow. And then in like the last 4 episodes, things kind of start to happen. God fucking damn it. Someone's right outside my door. I don't want to talk about this. Okay, I'm pausing until they're gone. Okay, people are gone. It's kind of like this big climactic, like a lot of different threads are coming... are coming to a head. coming to a head. You got Trevor and Sypha, the confronting these monks. You have Isaac. Basically, Isaac's on some journey. He can't get to Carmilla yet. He wants to go kill Carmilla throughout the season, but he's basically like, oh, I need an army to do that, so I have to like fight this wizard who's mind controlling this entire town so that I can turn everyone in the town into monsters. And it's this big like struggle fight he has to get up this wizard's tower. What else is happening? And then, right, and then Hector, who's spent basically the entire season, Belle Delphine vampire, has been basically like buttering him up, being like, basically getting him to like simp for her, putting a collar on him and shit, and like giving him food and stuff. And then she basically is like, hey, you want to have sex? And we were like, whoa, oh, okay. And then like they start showing out, and we're like, whoa. And then we cut to Alucard. He can't sleep. He's in bed. 2 Asian twins come in, and they're in like nightgowns, and I'm like, oh, okay, are they gonna like give him like a present or something? I was imagining, because they were talking about like making food or something. I was like, oh, they're gonna like make him a meal or something, right? This is kind of like a weird time to do that. It's like a Japanese thing. And then like they walk to the bed, and they're not like holding anything, and I'm like, okay. And then they like sit down, and there's these like shots that are very like, this is like a little intimate, and then like, and then I'm like, I'm waiting for the moment for them to like subvert. I'm like, nah, I'm just like being weird. They're like siblings, right? They're not gonna, right? There's gonna like at the last, I'm waiting for them to like pull out something that they made or something like that for some kind of gift for him. And then it's gonna be like, oh, fun, happy, cute, sweet. And then they start taking their clothes off, and we're like, whoa! But we both started popping off. And there's like this really into all these scenes are happening back to back, essentially, of just like fucking crazy violence, monster slaughter, Isaac just stabbing people with knives, and then just 2 sex scenes happening, and then just like full nudity. Well, not full. As far as you can go without, I would say it probably pushes as far as you can go without being straight up pornography. They don't show any genitals. That's kind of the only restraint that they have. You get full nip, and you get as much of a man as you can show. without having to censor yourself in Japan. It's so graphic. We were like losing our shit. What we're like, whoa! We're like, this is awesome. And it's like, it's just, what the fuck? I was not expecting a bisexual incestuous threesome. That really threw me off my game. Is this Castlevania? Man, that puts Symphony of the Night into like a whole new perspective. Holy shit. And like they're straight up like there's a shot. They don't show them sucking his dick or anything, but they it's like it's you just see their heads, like, you know, down there, and then it just cuts to Alucard and tears are forming in his eyes. Dude, pussy had me floating. It's just, and then kind of the climax is not, well, it's not a real both sex scenes end in, maybe you could call them anti-climaxes, some blue balls. 2 back-to-back betrayals. They betray him out of nowhere. They put these like silver rings on his what are they called? Wrists. I can't remember what the wrists were called on the body. And that like bind him up. And I'm like, okay, this is either like they're betraying him or they're getting really kinky. But no, they're actually going to try to kill him because they don't trust him or something. And I'm like, this is like really, I feel like you didn't have to like suck his dick that much to betray him in this moment. Like you could also, where did they get those rings? Were they like hiding them in their anal cavities or something? What was it? They were completely naked. And then Hector, fucking the Belle Delphine vampire, she puts a little mind control ring. It's not like a mind control ring, but it like forces him. I guess it is. I haven't seen it. We haven't seen like really enough of how it works. But he isn't like a zombie or anything. But he has like consciousness, cognizance. Like he could tell. Like he knows what happened. I guess it just forces him to do things, basically. He doesn't have control over his will, basically, if that... maybe, I guess that's sort of how it works. Like in the like the final moment. Then like... yeah, it's like... It feels... It's like... I see the point. They don't feel entirely gratuitous. They feel like, hey, let's draw some titties. You get some Belle Delphine vampire e-girl boobies. So, and a lot of Hector's back and man ass. I don't know. I feel Hector's kind of Hector's like they've got this whole thing. From the second season, from the time he was introduced, they kind of established that he's a bit of like he just kind of goes along with people. He's like easily influenced. Isaac, these vampire mommy head pats got me questioning my allegiance to Dracula. And now it's just basically full circle. He's literally pussy whipped. He's literally a lot of characters. When I think about the things that happen in season 3, some people in the comments of last episode described season 3 as I think someone described it as a filler season. It's not quite. There's fillery elements. It's more just so that the things that happen, the important things that happen, are more so to do with the characters changing or being pushed in certain directions as opposed to the state of the world changing. Excuse me. So, like, not a lot of stuff changes, really. Isaac has kind of advanced his plan a little bit. Carmilla basically has Hector set up to make her a bunch of monsters. Trevor and Sypha have basically a side quest. But really what changes is that characters are kind of being pushed in different directions. And kind of in opposing directions. So one thing, I haven't really talked about Trevor and Sypha's thing yet, but I've sort of mentioned, that's kind of the broad strokes. It's not super complicated. What's going on with the monks? Oh, they're trying to summon a demon. Or open a portal to hell. That's specifically what they want, so they can bring Dracula back. They interact with this character who's like the mayor, basically, of this town. He's the governor of the town. He's called Judge, or the Judge. And they're having these interactions with him. They kind of like befriend him. He's like an ally of theirs. He kind of sends them to look after go kind of investigate the monks and things like that. And then in this final giant monster battle where all these demons are pouring out of this gate, everyone gets really fucked up. In order to like open the portal, the entire town basically gets set on fire. Like everyone dies. Everyone gets burned to a crisp. The only people who are spared are like these soldiers that the judge has basically this militia that he's basically organized to confront the friars. And Trevor and Sypha. They're basically, actually they're not even spared. Most of the soldiers die, if not all of them. The head of the monks dies. He like stabs Judge. He stabs him in the gut or something. And then Judge basically says, "Hey, okay, so they set this thing up, right? They have this scene kind of earlier on where Judge is like walking around town, and this kid is running around. He goes, "Hey, no running in the town!" And the kid is like, "I'm looking for apples," or something like that. And the judge tells him, "Hey, I can tell you where to get apples." And he gives him basically a list of directions to get to an apple tree just outside of town. Runs off. You don't really. I'm like, oh, okay. And now there's this scene, right, when Trevor and Sypha go to talk to Judge, where he's in his house. He's got this little house of his own, and it's a little tucked away. It's a little ways away from the rest of the town. And when he hears the knock on the door, he's like walking out of a room in his house, and there's this very intentional shot of him looking into the room and kind of like wiping his hands, and you can't see into the room. And he has this kind of expression, like kind of strained expression on his face, like he's just done something kind of stressful or something like that. And then he hears the knock on the door. He closes the door to the room he was just in, goes and greets them. Scene proceeds as normal. Nothing weird, right? so the head of the head friar, as he stabs him, judge tells him, "Hey, go to." I could tell you how to get to safety. The friar's like, "Why would you tell me that?" And he's like, "I don't know." And or he kind of like reverse psychologies him, like he thinks that he's accepted the friar's beliefs in his like last moments or something like that. And he gives him the same directions he gave to the kid. And I'm like, okay, this is obviously a setup for something. Like something's gonna happen. But I thought it was weird because they haven't really acknowledged it, right? It's just there's a couple little crumbs that maybe there's something kind of odd with the judge, but they never really lean into it. You never hear anything else. There's nothing that really sets it off, right? And I made a joke of that scene where he's coming out of the room and you don't see what's in the room, right? And I think I was like, oh, that's his like this is like boy trap hole or something like that. He's like a pedophile, and Trevor and Sypha, they like overhear the battle's basically over. They overhear, I think, the directions that he gave to the friar, and then they decide, they're like, fuck, well, everyone's dead. Fuck, well, at least the evil people are dead too, right? At least the monks basically all got torn apart. And they decide to go investigate what the judge was talking about, and they find this apple tree, and they spot this like trap floor in the ground, and they kind of like pull this it's like straw or hay, or it's like this little literally this little like trap hole cover. They open it up and they see that underneath there's a pit of spikes with the friar. And I'm like, whoa, wait, I was joking about like the little boy hole. The little boy capture hole. Hang on, what? And they see there's like clothes at the bottom. They're like, what the fuck? They go to the judge's house. They go inside because he told them to burn it. And Trevor's like, maybe let's just check in. So let me just investigate. They walk in, and then they look inside the room, the mystery room, which was right when they were in the friar's house. Sorry, not the friar. In the judge's house, was right behind him. Like, the door was right behind him as they were talking to him. And they look inside, and it's a collection. There's like a dozen small pairs of shoes. Like child shoes. And they're like, what the fuck? They're looking around, and then they connect the dots, and they're like, the trap hole, the shoes. Trevor remembers a conversation he has with the judge about how, like, when like a child goes missing, it's big news. And they're like, the clothes at the bottom of the pit. There's like bones at the bottom. And they're like, oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? And then they just burn the house down. And there was like a bit where I was like, why was this even in the show? I genuinely did not understand, like, okay, what is the purpose of this twist? Like, why is this here? Because it's so intentional, right? It feels like this thing that easily could have not been included. You easily could have written it to not be like that. It's so intentional that, like, they have this scene of the kid. They have this conversation with Trevor, where the guy mentions that. They have the scene where they find the trap. They found the scene where the part where he tells the friar to go to the trap. The whole thing, like, why is this in the show? I didn't understand. I'm like, why was this necessary at all, except just to make you feel bad as an audience? and then there's a scene, like one of the last scenes is Trevor and Sypha, and they're rolling out of town on their wagon. And at the beginning of the season, Sypha was talking about how it would be a fun little adventure. Oh, because that's been their whole time together up to that point, just these adventures. And yeah, it gets serious and life-threatening, but it's like an adventure. And it's relatively uncomplicated, right? You're fighting demons and monsters and people who want to wipe out humanity. It's not very difficult. It's a pretty black and white situation. And then they're pulling out of town. It's gloomy, and Sypha is like, God, this fucking sucks. And Trevor has a line about how, like, this whole time we've been living in your world, now you're gonna live in mine for a little bit. And that was kind of when it clicked a little bit for me, and I was like, oh, this season overall is about characters who are either optimists or pessimists starting to look into getting a taste of, like, the other side of, like, the other outlook, essentially. Sypha has like, she's a little naive, right? Like, kind of some of her optimism comes from her naivete, that she's been in kind of this traveling group of nomads, and they're like these spiritualists, and like, yeah, there's complicated things, but that's because people are ignorant and things like that, and that's why they persecute us and all that, and her world up to this point has been pretty easy to understand overall. And she's pretty intelligent. She's, like, noted by other characters as being pretty, like, an intelligent person. So this isn't, like, because she's obviously, like, a smart person. This isn't because she doesn't have this outlook because she's just dumb and that. It's just she doesn't have, like, experience with this situation where, like, fuck, everyone innocent died in a fire, and the guy we thought was cool was actually a serial child slayer. The world is kind of fucked up. And it's not ignorance, right? It wasn't ignorance that he did those things out of. He just liked doing it. He just liked enjoying it. He just enjoyed killing children. He was just fucked up. And like, that's difficult for her to reconcile, that this person who she had so many normal interactions with, that she saw as, like, a relatively good person, was actually this horrible monster that just behind the scenes that she never knew. And you have these other pretty much, I want to say almost every other major character has, like, some form of this, right? Sypha might be the most dramatic, but if you look at Alucard, I think Alucard and Hector actually have very, very similar kind of experiences where they come to trust people and even like them. I think especially in Alucard's case, where he felt some, like, empathy and affection for the twins, and then in their literally their most intimate moments, they're betrayed. Like, the most intimate you could get, literally they're having sex. They are abjectly betrayed in the most severe way. They try to kill them or enslave them, and reveal that their feelings were, like, in many ways a hoax. Belle Delphine didn't really like Hector. She was doing it to control him and to further Carmilla's plan. The twins probably did like Alucard, probably did legitimately like him, but have turned their backs on him. And I kind of liked that from their perspective, their motivation at least makes sense. Like in their logic, they say like, you won't tell us this, you won't tell us that. You're keeping things from us. We don't trust you. We're gonna kill you. And the things that they're talking about are things that the audience already knows. The audience already understands. We already know why, the castle can't move, because Sypha melted the gears accidentally in season 2. You basically know why he can't teach them magic, because it's not that simple. They've been together like what, a week or two? He can't just jump into teaching these people magic right away. But like, I can see from their point of view how they would make sense that they wouldn't trust him. They obviously take it way too far, and they shouldn't have fucking killed him. But I can also kind of see, like, if you've been like a slave to a vampire for years, how you might have kind of a maybe you take, but maybe like an extreme approach to distrust. If there's even a hint, right, that someone's gonna betray you, you just fucking kill them. And Alucard, he summons his floaty magic sword, fucking cuts their throats, and he's just covered in their blood, and he's like, and the end of the season is him pushed into a very far, like much more like his father, to be honest, like in that very misanthropic, jaded, bitter way, where these people who were kind of his only relief from his solitude that was driving him insane, ended up betraying him, and because of just a misunderstanding, just like they're just like this aspect of human nature, just a simple misunderstanding and jumping the gun, basically, betrayed him, and he fucking impales them like Vlad the Impaler style. They have a little reference to Dracula being based on Vlad the Impaler. He says like, oh, just like father used to do. Impales them like through, I think the classic, I think the Vlad way was through the rectum up through the mouth. So the spikes coming out of the mouth. And he basically puts them up outside the castle as basically like warning signs that this is what happens to people who cross him. There's this like brutal side of him that's been brought out by this betrayal. And then in the opposite end, you have, funny enough, Trevor, who you've kind of been seeing as the season, as the show goes on. But funny enough, Isaac a little bit. Trevor's kind of been going in this direction where he's kind of softening up a little, and that kind of comes from like some of Sypha's influence, right? There's a moment where like he tells Saint Germain that like, hey, because Saint Germain's looking for like the interdimensional portal, and he tells Saint Germain like, oh yeah, we can help you, and or he kind of says it in this way where like, hey, we figured out that, like, this thing, yada yada, and also if you come with us, you can find the portal so you can find your friend who was lost in, like, the dimensional portal thing. And he's like, oh, are you gonna, like, oh, you're just, like, helping me straight up? And he's like, yeah, like, don't mention it. Like, just shut up, just be cool about it, dude. Like, don't be fucking weird about it. It's like, okay, Trevor's becoming less misanthropic, right? He's becoming a little he'll go out of his way to help someone, even though he kind of finds Saint Germain sort of annoying. He's not like super on board with him. He's just like, okay, maybe this guy's kind of interesting. He's kind of neutral, a little cold towards him, but he'll help him out, and it's just kind of like out of this kindness. But he's all tough. He's a tough guy, so he doesn't want to like show it, right? Like, okay. And then Isaac is straight up like, oh yeah, he wants to kill humanity. He wants like full, where Hector was kind of assumed, he even says he kind of assumed that Dracula just sort of wanted to control the human population and just kind of, cull them down. Isaac just wants everyone to die. He just hates humanity straight up. He's like a super nihilist. And his whole mission is, I think it's interesting. Again, Kat doesn't like this character. She doesn't care about him. I think he's interesting in these little glimpses you get into his thought process. Because he has to, so he goes into this town, he gets like this magic mirror from this old kind of like, kind of magical antiques dealer. And the dealer tells this kind of joke, and Isaac kind of laughs at it. He's like, oh, tells this joke about like, oh, if he gives him this as a gift, maybe it'll save his soul from hell or something like that. Or like, because I'm definitely going to hell. And Isaac actually kind of finds it funny. And he's like, thanks for the gift. And then he goes off, immediately gets confronted, because he's just rolling around with a whole crew of demons. Immediately gets confronted by the like town, it's just like port town. Confronted by their like militia. And he's like, just, if you don't cause me trouble, I'll let you pass. They're like, no, they're monsters. We're gonna get out. And he's like, okay, I guess I'll just kill everyone in this town and turn you all into monsters. Fuck you, I guess. Just super bitter. And he has this line about like, I don't know why I give people the benefit of the doubt, because they're always just assholes. People are just always assholes to me, and they just suck. So he goes, he basically commandeers the ship, or he doesn't commandeer it specifically. He talks with the captain, and the captain's this kind of like older guy. Struck me as like Caribbean or African. I couldn't figure out like his accent quite. He has like kind of an interesting accent. And he starts talking to him, and he basically says like, well, Isaac's just gonna kill the whole crew and the captain and take the ship. And the captain's like, okay, but like, do you know how to steer a ship? And he's like, can't be that hard, right? And the captain's like, if it's not that hard, then why do ships have captains? Why do I even have a profession? And Isaac's like, okay, point taken. We'll make an agreement. My monsters won't kill your guys or you, and you'll take us to Genoa, because he's trying to hunt down Carmilla. He's on a revenge quest. He's gonna go kill Carmilla. And they have this conversation on the boat about essentially like Isaac's philosophy and some of the shortcomings or the blind spots that the captain sees in it. And I liked it because Isaac is a character who acts very much like he's got everything figured out, like he knows how the whole world works, basically. And the captain is basically like, well, that there's like, kindness exists, right? Like kindness and people who are good-hearted. Like that the shopkeeper who sold you, or not, didn't even sold, just gifted you this magic mirror that you needed, and told like a funny joke, and you recognize that like humanity has that capacity. And Isaac is like, yeah, but like it doesn't matter, right? Because people are misled and they fucking suck. And the captain's like, well, if you like ultimately like you want to kill everyone because you think that humanity sucks, but if humanity didn't suck, you wouldn't have to do that. And Isaac's like, yeah, I guess. And the captain's like, well, how would you get humanity to not suck? You would have to like set up some kind of a precedent. And he basically plants this little seed in Isaac's head where he says, basically, if you control, like if you conquer some part of the world, right? You overthrow them, right? You become like a conqueror, you become a leader. And if you're a leader, yeah, I guess you could just kill everyone, but you could also teach people how to be the way you wish they were. And Isaac kind of has a little think about that. And it's not been like, it's just a setup. It's just a setup, and I'm assuming that it's going to be explored more in season 4. I hope it is, because I think that's an interesting idea. I like it when characters who are extremely confident are not treated like they're right all the time. I feel like it's so easy as a writer to write a character who just believes what you believe and then make them super confident and then no one ever argues with them. I like the fact that Isaac is very confident in his ideology and his worldview, and then he has this character who kind of subverts that and kind of questions it and kind of like makes his foundation a little shaky, basically. I think that's like I like moments like that where a character sort of has to not exactly swallow their pride. Like, he isn't embarrassed or humbled. And the captain's saying this out of like a belief in I think in the things that he's saying. Also, he probably doesn't want to get murdered by demons when Isaac takes over the world. But he has to like kind of stop and think, maybe I am a little wrong, right? Maybe there's a little more to it maybe I'm not like as enlightened or wise as I thought I was. Maybe I don't know everything there is to know. And I like that. I appreciated that. As like a little character moment. So you have, I think, any other examples? Any other examples? I'm trying to think of characters kind of shifting at their points. I think that those are kind of like the main characters who really go through some shifts. Unless there's a character who's so forgettable that, no, I think that's pretty much everyone. Excuse me. What else? The action's still pretty good. It's there's like a weird scene. There's like a weird shot. It's not even a scene, it's a shot. It's when they're in the friary or the priory or whatever it's called. And it's the big battle scene with all the monsters pouring out of the portal. And Trevor, like, he gets knocked down and he stands back up. And in this one shot where he's like getting up off the ground, he's like CG. He's clearly CG. And it's super weird. I was like, it's like the climactic moment. It's like this kind of sick ass moment where he pulls out, because he's been using the Morning Star, like the chain whip with like the holy fire ever since like season 2. And he pulls out, there's this big ass like angel demon and that he's fighting. And he pulls out the original whip, the like rope whip from like season 1 and I guess early season 2. And he's using both of that. And this one shot where he's just CG as he's getting up, it's like right before this huge, like a ton of, like a real like Sakuga moment where like all the like whips, like whipping, I guess, is that the verb? The momentum and like the crazy color changes as like the whole room is engulfed in light and shit, and boom, like this big final epic maneuver he does. And right before it, he's full CG, and I was so distracted by that it kind of distracted me from the cool animation. Other than that, yeah. It's animation's still really solid. Everything that's good, the things that are the show has been pretty consistent so far in that the things that are good about it are consistently pretty good. And the things that I could see being polarizing, honestly, I think I talked about this, but it kind of improved throughout the 3rd season. Just kind of more characters that are a little more interesting. Every conversation that Hector had with Belle Delphine Vampire was intriguing because you yourself are kind of trying to figure out what her motive is. She tells him up front that she's like a diplomat and she's like basically the talker of the group. That's her role. So every scene with them, it's kind of a classic, like, what's their intentions, right? Like what does she want? Is she being, like, does she legitimately like him? What's going on? And then it ends up that like, okay, yeah, no, she was kind of just leading him on the whole time. She's an evil e-girl. She puts on the ring that forces him to subscribe to her OnlyFans, and she's basically going to keep him as a sex slave. She literally says, like, it's kind of interesting because it isn't like full-on cruelty. She says, because they have this thing like, okay, she goes, okay, what did you think you were going to get out of your relationship with Dracula? Do you really think he wasn't going to kill you? And he's like, I mean, like maybe like honor code, right? Like bro code, right? and she's like, no, that's like, you should probably get something in return. And that's kind of like the one of the ins that she gets with him is that one of the ways that she kind of tricks him or lowers his guard is that she gives him things, and she actually kind of, she butters him up a little bit with these sorts of rewards and gifts and things like that. And in her mind, that's just like diplomacy, and that's like her game. That's her evil. Is that she'll give you something, but she's going to take a lot more from you. So she'll give him like a cabin and food, and he doesn't have to lie naked in a cold prison eating like moldy cheese. But in return, he has to create demons for Carmilla's army, and Belle Delphine is going to force him to have sex with her by basically manipulating his will using the ring, which is really fucked up. Just like really fucked up. So I can see the clear, like, I know that it's like a 4-season basically storyline. So I can see the where it's generally where it's going. I imagine that season 4, which I'll get back to you guys next week with, because we're gonna watch that over the weekend again. We're gonna finish it over the weekend. My predictions, I imagine for season 4, some of you guys, someone told me, I think Ryan told me in the comments that seasons 3 and 4 are just kind of like loosely adapting and taking stuff from Curse of Darkness. So I can't really look up the plot, which is funny because Saint Germain in season 3 felt like like a minor forgettable character from a video game. He felt like that. I don't know how to describe it. He feels like a character like that, who just kind of has their little side plot, and then you kind of see it resolve. And I don't know. He felt like that. So I can't just look up what happens to just know what's gonna happen in the game, to know what's gonna happen in the show. They're basically setting up that, well, now Isaac's gonna have a big army. I imagine he's gonna attack Carmilla. I imagine there's gonna be something between him and Hector as now rival forge masters. There could maybe be some kind of there's like a billion different ways that like that interaction could go. I have no idea what Trevor and Sypha are going to be doing in the next season. Apparently it has a lot of action according to you guys, so that's cool. It's also a different production studio. It's a different animation studio, and I'm kind of curious what it looks like. I haven't really checked it out yet, so I don't know exactly if it's significantly different. I guess they animate more action. I genuinely like don't know what they're not. It's every character but them is kind of like set up to go somewhere, which I think is weird because they're ostensibly the main characters. From a character perspective, I can see where they're going, but not like objective wise. They're just kind of going from town to town. I can probably see, like, I imagine that this big thing that happens between Isaac and Carmilla that they're setting up ropes Trevor and Sypha into this, and potentially Alucard. Maybe they need to give him like an excuse to be in the show, basically. Maybe he even sides with Isaac. Maybe he even sides with Isaac and decides to hate humanity. Whatever the case, I am looking forward to it. I enjoyed it. Kat enjoyed it. Oh, and I hope that there's more full-on nudity in season 4. God damn, I talked about that for like an hour. It's an interesting show. I think that's pretty much everything I had to say about it. I want to talk about a little something that got announced this week, which I have not seen a lot of people talk about for some reason. Oh, it wasn't this week. No, it was this week. They're just writing the dates weird on this article. There's a couple different websites covering this. I'm reading the one from Automaton Media. Excuse me. Because guess what, guys? There's a new Yoko Taro game. Whoa, don't you love Yoko Taro? I do. What a cool, interesting guy. There's a new game from him called 404 Game Reset. So this is an iOS game, or a mobile game. It's going to be it's coming out in spring in Japan, but it's going to have an international release, like an English, multiple languages. It's going to be in English, basically, which is what's important to me. 404 Game Reset is a game where Sega, the world is ruled. So this is a game that it's published by Sega, right? Yoko Taro is working with Sega on this one, not Square Enix, which I think has been his historical publisher. This is a game that's published by Sega, and the premise is that it's an RPG where the world is ruled by a dystopian Sega. Sega rules the world, and it's some kind of nightmare corporate megalopolis. And the main character, you, the player, has to defeat Sega, the corporation, using characters. Using basically these little RPG gacha characters. I imagine it's a gacha game. These gacha characters. The gacha characters are based off of classic Sega arcade games like Virtua Cop, Virtua Fighter, Outrun, these things, Afterburner. What if those games were anime girls? Stay with me now. So, the party members, the collectible characters in this game, are anthropomorphized, anime girl-ified Sega games. So there's let me pull up the trailer again. So there's like Virtua Cop, right? The light gun game, except it's a girl. It's an anime girl in little short shorts and a jacket, and her weapon is a light gun. And she has a little SWAT team hat. What if you had, where are the other characters? Oh, there they are. What if the game Afterburner? Like the little like shmup game? What if it's a girl in like a bomber jacket? And is that like a leotard? It's like a... and also extremely short shorts. And she has a big minigun. That game Virtua Fighter? What if there was a girl in like a martial arts outfit? And she has a stand, and it's Akira from Virtua Fighter, but like Virtua Fighter 1 Akira, where he's just like 5 polygons. It like, what if this was real? Isn't that awesome? I'm assuming they haven't said that this is a gacha game. I'm imagining it is. let me read from the article, because so for some unknown reason, there is only a Japanese promo trailer for this game right now, and my Japanese isn't good enough to actually. I guess I could translate it because there's full subtitles in Japanese. I guess if I wanted to, I could go painstakingly translate it word by word very slowly myself. But I don't want to do that, and my Japanese listening and reading isn't good enough to be able to do that. But we do have some details from basically the press release. 404, or as they describe it, error. They say like error. They call it Error Game Reset. Is an RPG where you must fix a world that has been distorted by Sega. The game is set in a world where Sega reigns supreme in all kinds of fields, from entertainment to infrastructure. They control healthcare, even. One day, the protagonist encounters a mysterious existence known as X, who explains that the world is not as it should be. After realizing that Sega is the culprit behind this distorted world, the protagonist wages a battle against the company in an attempt to restore the world to its original form. The characters in the game, referred to as the cast, cast is capitalized, it's a proper noun, are Bishoujo personifications of famous video games. Sega titles like Outrun, Virtua Cop, and Virtua Fighter, as well as games from other companies, have been transformed into girls. I don't know what other companies means. The girls are beings created from games that have been granted a consciousness, and they possess the ability to alter reality. Sega has brainwashed the cast and uses their abilities to rewrite the world as it sees fit. Details on the game are still scarce, but in the announcement trailer, Yoko Taro explained, quote, "I thought that people probably wouldn't want to see Sega create a game where they make themselves look good, so I made them evil." He then imagined what it would be like if Sega were to go out of control and created a world based on this delusion. It's just Sega Crime Empire. It's the Sega Crime Empire, but they rule the world. That's so awesome. I feel like no one else would do this besides him. He further explained that the game's content is rather unorthodox and said that he would be really happy if they made a game if the game made everyone think, quote, "Sega made an edgy game that isn't going to make any money." I want people to not understand what I'm talking about. I want people to not understand my vision. I don't. I'm gonna at least check it out. It comes out in a couple months. This is spring, so it's sometime soon, I guess. What a weird concept. What an odd original idea, Mr. Taro. Taro-san. There's legitimately like very few details. There's like a couple snippets of gameplay. There's like some screenshots. I played Sino Alice, or Sino Alice, as it should be pronounced. Sino Alice. Sino is a Latin word. Which was a game that he did with Square Enix. It was also like a mobile game, and I was like, oh, cool, Yoko Taro game. Yeah, I love Yoko Taro. I love Nier Automata. And Sino Alice was fine. It was okay. It was like dark fairy tale kind of thing, and the gameplay was all right. Did not really interest me very much, and I think it shut down relatively recently. Hopefully this one is a little more interesting. The concept is certainly a lot more out there. I'm kind of surprised that Sega even greenlit this game. It seems it's like the inverse of Sega Gaga. You guys know Sega Gaga? It's like the came out. Oh goodness, when did Sega Gaga come out? Sega Gaga. It was a Dreamcast game, wasn't it? March 29th, 2001. So Sega Gaga is like a weird RPG that is based on like you're working at Sega and what the fuck is happening? Sega Gaga is a role. I remember like watching Corone play through the entire game over like a 36-hour live stream. Sega Gaga is a role-playing simulation video game described as a Sega simulation. Controlling the young Sega Taro, the player is tasked with saving a struggling Sega from losing the console market to their rival Dogma. So it's basically like, it's this really weird, like, self-aware RPG game? Like, that was mirroring the actual, like, Dreamcast's failure? The player must progress through various Sega development studios and fight various employees who, due to the stress and pressure brought on by tight work constraints, have turned into mutants. And there's an absolutely epic Wikipedia excerpt here. The screenshot is titled, is captioned, "In-game screenshot showing the player fighting Amigo from Samba de Amigo." It's a really weird game, and it's never been translated outside of Japan. It's never been translated, into anything but Japanese, because it's just, like, super referential, and there's, like, a bunch of text, and they just were like, this is just too fucking niche, like, no one's gonna play this. I'm pretty sure it's never been... likely due to its late release in the Dreamcast lifespan, Sega Gaga was not a commercial success. In its first week of release, the game sold an estimated 18,000 copies. In total, it sold little over 34,000 copies. Wow. Is there an English version? I thought it was only Japanese. No, it was only ever released in Japan. Why is there a US magazine that has a review of it? Oh yeah, it never got released overseas. This is like the opposite of that. What a strange... Yeah. Sega's always doing some weird stuff. I guess maybe they maybe I don't know, I'm trying to make a reference to Sega being owned by the Yakuza, by the actual Yakuza. Oh man. Okay. Remember when I made that Yakuza video? I feel like most of you who are listening to this podcast now have seen that. Most people who have ever interacted with my channel, the majority of people who have interacted with my channel have seen that video. Probably only seen that video, to be honest. My analytics get super screwed up by that one video, because anytime I see... YouTube has all these tools that they think are helpful about, like... Oh, what are your viewers interested in? Other channels your audience watches. The Sega Yakuza video skews it so hard that that all of those tools that YouTube gives me have been basically useless for like a year. Like almost completely useless. It's literally just other things your audience watches, and it's just videos about like the Yakuza games. The video is not even about the Yakuza games. Kiryu's in the thumbnail because, like, of course he is. Like, what else am I going to put in the thumbnail? It's about the real crime organization. Like, the actual Yakuza. It's why it's called the actual Yakuza. I've never played a Yakuza game before. I can't make videos about Yakuza? It would be so weird. Like, why would I just... Unless there's some, like, weird, interesting story about it, I guess. No, like... It's all just, like, Yakuza memes and shit like that. Or it's, yeah, that's pretty much it. All of those things that YouTube is like, hey, this is what you should be making more of. And it's like, no, like, you don't understand. I wish there was a way that I could subtract that video from my analytics just for the purposes of, like, cleaning up the data, because it's such an outlier. I guess that's a weakness of YouTube's analytics system, is that it really doesn't account for outlier videos. Because like that's when we're like, if I just started like thinking, if I just started making videos about the Yakuza games, I feel like people just wouldn't watch them. Like that's not like, my channel is so wildly different. I don't even know what I would make videos about. Are there Yakuza YouTubers who don't just like make shit posts? Like making shit posts is fun. I don't want that to be like my career. I haven't even played the game. I would have to play like every Yakuza game. I have to like, I don't even know, like, if I made like, I have so many, I would have to like make an entirely new channel. Because the I've got like so many videos now that have nothing to do with that. I feel like I'm justifying. I've like it would make no sense for me to just start making Yakuza videos, but like that seems like pretty clear. I feel like if you think about it for a second, but I'm putting more thought into it. They're like, yeah, no, if I did, I have all this huge backlog of stuff that has nothing to do with that at all. It would be super weird. I would have to make so many videos to like overpower the rest of my channel. It would. Yeah, no. What was I talking about? Oh, right. I was thinking about this the other day, and I guess because I have an excuse because I'm talking about Sega. I got a lot of comments on that video. If you guys have watched that video, which again, you probably have, you probably remember the ending bit about how Sega basically sent employees. There was to refresh your memories. There was a group of Sega employees who were, I believe they were contract workers, and basically Sega wanted to alter their contract so they were considered Sega employees, but Sega wanted to alter it so that they were considered like third-party contract workers, and not Sega employees, likely because they would have to pay them less and give them less benefits and stuff like that. They protested this change, and Sega sent them to a floor. Sega responded by sending them to like a floor of the building. I think it might have been in a different building entirely that was entirely empty except for a few computers, and basically told them to do their normal work and cut their salaries by 30%. And what really amazes me is the number of people in the comment section of that video who just go, "What? I don't see what's wrong with that. Dude, if that was me, you would just put me in a room and just have me work, and that would be great." And it's like, dude, fucking think for 1 second. I get like almost legitimately upset when I read comments like that, because like you deserve you deserve to be drowned in the lake with fucking your feet in concrete. You're the first one for that to happen to. Oh, I just look. This is clearly like a mafia intimidation tactic to isolate you. Like, put yourself in that situation legitimately. Your company is trying to screw you over. You protest, and as punishment, as retaliation, they send you to a different building to an empty floor with nothing but a computer to do your work, isolating you, cutting your pay. Now, like, think about that. What do you think that says? What do you think the statement is from the employer? It's that they're willing to like harm you, and they're trying to scare you for standing up to them, basically. They're trying to scare you and potentially that they could do much worse things in the future. And just the amount of people who just, what's the problem with that? Like, oh my fucking god, dude, think for a second. Like, have some self-preservation. How fucking stupid can you be, dude? Like, come on. This is so... The fact that a company could even try to retaliate against you like that shouldn't even be... That should have been the end of the story. The company shouldn't be allowed to punish you for that, right? That's a punishment. Christ, like, I couldn't believe how many people... I think the majority of people understood that, like, that's really fucking scary and weird and bad. But, like... The number of times I get comments like that it really boggles my mind. It's really something else. Sorry, I just want to go on a rant about that. I've never talked about that before, but it really... It's like, what the... I still get those, even today. Even today, I'll get comments like that are just... What the fuck is wrong? How's dumb? How... Ugh. Anyway, 404 game reset. It looks like it might be funny. There's like one more story I want to talk about, and this one's really a doozy. I was alerted to this last night. So there's a gentleman on Twitter. I don't know enough context about this to really like understand everything about it. Basically, there was this guy on Twitter who goes by the name Cypher. And he is some kind of like a retro Call of Duty enthusiast. And I guess he and this person got into a bit of a spat where they said, like, I guess Cypher was talking, he really likes CoD 3. That's his game of choice. And this other Twitter user said, basically called him out for shitting on clips from other games, right? Like, people post clips from other games, and this guy goes, oh, this game fucking sucks, it's a baby game, whatever. I don't know exactly what he's talking about, but that's the accusation. Cypher replies, I said it's hard for me to watch them. They don't interest me the same as CoD 3 clips do, because I know it's not as much of a grind, and they're much easier to hit. These are like cool CoD clips, I guess. I don't care what other people do in their free time. I just won't be watching the clips they hit unless it's CoD 3. And the first user replies, is this the grind you're talking about? And they attach... they attach a collection of leaked DMs of Cypher talking to someone else, I don't know who, where Cypher devises a plan. Okay, let me just read it out. Cypher writes, there is a children's terminal illness clinic near me, and they let the kids play on Xboxes that were donated. You can go volunteer to help be friendly to the kids and keep them company so that they have good memories for their final days or whatever. This is real. Since all the old gen games are so cheap right now, I think you'll get those $40 Japanese Xbox cards, like capture cards, for $5 each, and just start volunteering and downloading COD. Oh no, I think those are like fucking whatever. I don't know exactly what he's talking about. And just start downloading COD 3 on all the Xboxes there. Could also uninstall every other game to help even further. Just an idea though. You gotta get a background check and shit before you can volunteer, but I'll stop by on Monday and see if I can get the ball rolling on this. Lobbies will be insane, bro. The person he's speaking to says, for real? And he says, yeah, bro, realistically, probably couldn't get a full 12v12 with just kids, but maybe 12 to 15 of them will fall for it. I've just got to trick them into thinking I'm their friend enough so that I can show them how/when to join. It would be some of the best lobbies we could ever get. Lobbies filled with kids who have never played the game before. The clips we will hit. This blew me away. This knocked me on my feet and stole my socks. This man is... This is... If you didn't quite get that, I'll put it into layman's terms. This man's cipher is... has concocted a scheme to set up CoD multiplayer lobbies with him and maybe some of his friends and a bunch of terminally ill children so he can record his gameplay and hit some sick, nasty CoD clips. Let's fucking go. That's the whole purpose. This is so insane. This is so crazy to me. Like, there is no money to be made. Like, legitimately, how much money is there to be made in, like, Twitter clips and YouTube compilations of your baller-ass COD 3 trick shots? Like, zero. In fact, excuse me, there's only really money to be lost here. I mean, he talks about $40 Japanese Xbox cards, $5 each, all the Xboxes. Install that. Okay, so like $5 on like 15 Xboxes. So that's like 15. Like that's his theory. It's like $75. I just had to do the math on that because I'm a fucking idiot. That's like $75. And then he's going to go. It's not just the money investment. It's also like the time spent, because it's not just like, let me spend some money, do this, right? Where does he say it specifically? I've just got to trick them into thinking. He has to deceive terminally ill, cancer-ridden children. Children with the fucking oxygen tubes in their nose into thinking that he's their friend. To deceive them into thinking that he's their friend. Pull a whole ass... I can't say Castlevania Season 3 because they have sex at the end of that. Just so that he can pull the rug out from under them and start no-scoping these bitches. It's like evil in a way that is like cartoonish. It's like an episode. Someone says in the replies to this thread, it's like a South Park episode in real life. It's like an episode of It's Always Sunny or some show where the characters are so cartoonishly evil that you can't even like treat it like it's real. That's this man's reality. He's gonna farm. He's gonna farm terminally ill children for Twitter clips. Again, no money to be made in this. None at all. It's just the love of the game, baby. It's just the love of the game. Dude. What is his plan? What is his plan? Like, does he just turn heel and start shit talking them? What if they get on voice chat? I'm laughing so hard my head feels light. And, like, someone points out that, like, yeah, maybe they could maybe they won't even know. Maybe, because it's just going to be him, right? It's just going to be him and maybe his friend. And most of these kids are just going to be playing against each other, having some fun playing Call of Duty, right? And what do they care? They're just going to have fun. To be honest, yeah, maybe this could all work out. Maybe this could all work out in the end. Fuck them kids. This is the new Michael Jordan. The lengths COD players will go to avoid skill-based matchmaking are wild is so funny. There isn't even that much to say about this. This is just epic. This is just so goddamn funny. I honestly have nothing else to say about it. From this point on, any clips this guy shares are just... Is his account even still alive? Like, did he just delete it? I have to know. What was his name? Cypher... What's his @ Cypher TM or something? Let's look up. Oh, no. Oh, did he delete his account? No, he's still here. Has he tweeted anything? He's the #1 COD 3 movement player. What a title. Wait. Oh, was this like a joke? Was this a joke? He retweeted someone saying that this was supposedly a joke. I don't know how true that is. But this is just really funny. Anyway, yeah. I choose to think that it's real and that this man's just on the grind. This guy is just on the COD clip grind. I think it's so funny because at the same time there's been like a little minor discussion in like mainly like I think the plus R community about if you're posting like clips of you getting a combo or something, is it like good etiquette to just like block out the other player's name, right? Because maybe they're kind of embarrassed that they didn't play well or that they got hit, and people were having some conversation about like, oh, is it like a good thing to do? Should we expect people to censor the other player's name, for their sake, and like polite stuff, and then just over in COD 3 land, over in retro shooter land, it's like, dude, I'm gonna no scope these fucking cancer kids. They aren't gonna know what hit them. This reminds me of a tweet I made from like a couple weeks ago where I tweeted out like a stock image of like a terminally ill child in a hospital bed. And I captioned it like, he wouldn't last 5 minutes in a Modern Warfare 2 lobby. This is exactly that. Did I manifest this? That's like my joke come to life. I was joking. It's funny because part of the joke is like the callousness of that phrase. Not to like explain it too much, but like, yeah, that's part of that was the joke. If you saw that and didn't get it, is it's a very callous phrase. So I was like, what's the most extreme like mean-spirited context that you could say that in? Oh, like a dying child. Just like pale fading away. He wouldn't last 5 minutes in a Modern Warfare 2 lobby. Oh man, good times. Anyway, I'm probably gonna call it a day there. I can't wait for the clips to just be an hour of me talking about Castlevania. It's gonna be awesome. Check out the Clips channel, by the way. I got a Patreon. I expect the next video is sometime this week. Yeah, if you've been listening to this so far, thank you for listening to your ramble. If you have a question, please leave them down in the comments below, but please phrase it in the form of a question, because I'm not just going to read your thoughts out loud. It's pretty much all I got to say. Gooby.